it's different enough that it's useful to take a glance at these every now and then. Even if you've got a regular client every 5 or 10 years, it's useful to go in just to double check where things are going in. But okay, here's the Uranus. It starts in the 4th house, in Leo, 1 degree Leo. Okay, it's squaring Mercury and Neptune at 27 degrees of Libra in the 7th house. So there's this main square, sextiles the moon. Okay, so it starts going direct 1 degree, goes up to 2 degrees 20 minutes. 2 degrees 20 minutes, doesn't quite get into the 5th house and goes retrograde. Stays in the 4th house concern. Even that is a huge different perspective on what's freedom, having one's own place and things that stays around, what's security, what motivates one. Then it retrogrades back, which means it will come back to its original starting point if it moves far enough back. It moves up that 2 degrees, 1.5 degrees, and then it's moving back. It gets back to the exact conjunction in 2024. It's back, and then it goes back into earlier things, and it might even go back into Cancer, but not likely. That's not for them. But it gets back to its own place. Right now, it's just before that, and it's in a Leo, Aries, Gemini face. And you'd have to read the hexagram of the well. 41 is 41 is decrease, and 34 is it 34? 34. Oh, power of the great. So this is all learning the power of the great, of thinking, of tapping the well, tapping the depth. This is in the astrology around these things. But this is her Uranus, her excitement, and it's coming back to her starting point in 2024. And that may be really the beginning for being a bit more independent, perhaps thinking for herself, doing her own thing more. Could be where she's living. May make a decision to live in one country or another or something. It's just changed from that, because her thinking and Mercury and Neptune are going one way around relationships, and then the Uranus, the possible changes is something that would always kind of worry her, sort of bring these things up. Then it was back, and it's just going to go degree by degree. Each degree has its symbol. There's 22 books on different degree symbols. You can look up to see if there's one you don't like, you try another one and see. I found the hexagrams to be the more neutral ones, although the way they, if you use just the regular I Ching books, they are very sexist and really towards the superior man, that. In my book on I Ching, I work to get rid of the superior man and make it each individual has its strength or weakness and can get guilt in these things. So it's written more for the astrology. Okay. Okay, her Neptune. Neptune conjunct to Mercury. Her Neptune, let's just see. From the chart, we'll just get it a bit more here. Neptune's at 2721, Mercury's at 2756. So they're half a degree apart. The Neptune's moving forward, is going to move into the Mercury. So here we go. You sort of anticipate, you see the aspect there, it's squaring the Uranus. So will the Neptune move that far? Not likely to move that far to get into Scorpio, but we'll see. It will hit the Mercury. So here we go. It's going forward. It hits the Mercury. It's half a degree apart, but it's not till 1971. She's born in 55, 65, 71. So 16 years old. The Neptune hits the Mercury, and she starts thinking differently. Starts having her imagination, starts having visions and ideas in ways she wouldn't have had before. And believing in her own thinking. Then it moves forward. If she lives till 2035, 2036 in April, it will go into Scorpio. So 2036, 45, she gets to 80. Her Neptune will go into Scorpio. Then it'll just be, instead of just dreams about the relationships, it'll be more passionate dreams, more Scorpio dreams at 80. Okay, God help us. But it provides, it's a background theme. It's like a big wave. It's like swells in the ocean. It's not just waves. You're looking at these bigger themes that go on that will play themselves out. And when it's when there's a really difficult aspect, well, you're having to face that difficult aspect till it's over, and it's really almost threatening to see it. When it's not, it's usually it's just, with astrology, it's honest when you see what's going on and clear. So here is the Pluto, her Pluto, 27 degrees. It squares the moon at 22, but it's not, it's moving forward. It's not going to be going back to that. It will sextile the Mercury at 27 degrees. It gets exact. We get exact at 4 years old, so whatever that is. But then it moves forward, starts slowing down. Yep, goes retrograde. Now here in this case, it was 2836 for like 10 years, 10 days. So I had to go into the ephemeris, and I looked back in the ephemeris to get what was probably the more exact date. It started in 2012. Her Pluto had gone retrograde, so went forward as far as it could, got up to 28 degrees, and 27, and starts moving back. So then the question becomes, is it going to get back to the sextile Mercury? How far it goes back? I don't know, it won't go back that far. It goes back just to 28 degrees. But it stays within that 29th degree. I moved into 28 degrees in 62. Her Pluto will stay in that same degree for the rest of her life. So the theme of that degree, the meanings in that degree, have significant relevance for a long time theme. Okay, here we go. Pluto. So it's you really have these things working in your chart. It's just spreading this little distance and making a slight difference, extending the attitude, the energy of the natal chart planet, how it's working. Okay, so here's where we have February 1779. We've got the Aquarius. Here the Uranus is 20 degrees Scorpio, squaring the Mars at 21 degrees. Okay, so if it's going forward, it's direct, so if it's going forward, it could hit that Mars, and that's about it. So anyway, if it goes really forward, it could go up to square the Sun. So that's a basic high anxiety, accident-prone, restless. Uranus Mars is restless, hard to stay at the same job, hard to stay at the same things. Things disrupt and big changes tend to happen. Natally, she has that. Or he has that. Here, Uranus went forward, and then in 1986, born in 79, 1986, at so that's 7, around 6 or 7, Uranus started to go retrograde. When retrograde, it came back to its own place in 1992. Just did that little venture forward and back to its own place in 1992. Uranus was back conjuncting its own, but reinforcing its own position. So what that meant is, for the first number of years, it was moving into that square, getting closer to the square to Mars, getting more and more restless or unstable, moving closer into that square to Mars. But it only moved half a degree, not even half a degree, a little bit closer, then it backed off. And it backed up, and now it's moving further away. It's back to its own place. It keeps moving back further away from that Mars. So it means slowly over the lifetime, that restlessness may calm down a little. But it's not like, well, we'll see how far, if it gets out of orb. We'll see. It backs up. It's in the process right now. It's at 20 degrees. And Scorpio, Aquarius, Aries phase. It's going to back up. There's nothing showing, no big aspects. It goes back to, if it lives to 100, it'll go back to 18 degrees Scorpio. At 18 degrees Scorpio is still in the square. It's still within the square. So because it went forward and retrograde, it slowed down a lot and will not go that far. It'll move 2 degrees, 3 degrees in a lifetime. That's a typical stationary retrograde time period. Going through that takes a big chunk of your life. But it stayed that whole time. It's still squaring that Mars, so there's still, Uranus will still have a disruptive, unsettling, or irritating influence there. Now Neptune's at 20 degrees in the third house. Travels with brother and sister. It's no bad aspects to Neptune, except it's sextiles to Sun, Mars, it's sextiles Pluto, so it does oppose the midheaven. It's not written in here. So there is some confusion between the dreams of what I know or what I'm thinking about third house and what I actually accomplish, Gemini in the midheaven. There's a bit of a puzzle. Now that Neptune's not likely to move that far to be exactly up to there. So, but in fact, it moves forward and then goes retrograde. So it moves forward from 20, 12 up to 20 degrees, 30 minutes, and it goes retrograde. Why it goes retrograde is not so much because it was, because in that month the moon moved further, the sun moved further ahead, and it went into the retrograde phase. It got further, more than 120 degrees away, and it went retrograde. So it went retrograde at 2030 in 2013. And it started going forward. Right now, it's still just starting getting used to going retrograde. And you could look up the hexagrams that's in, but on the printout, these 3 dates, it's all within the hexagrams are written. When it goes into that line of the degree on the smallest level, it doesn't write them every time, doesn't repeat them every time. But again, Neptune comes back to conjunct itself. Yeah, this is Neptune, right? Neptune comes back to conjunct itself in 2047. So this Neptune is retrograding, comes back to its own natal position, which is not a bad position in 2047, and it'll just might go a half a degree further, won't go much further back. So that's the Neptune. And sometimes if Neptune's your belief system, it can be the reestablishing of your own beliefs and your knowledge of those things as the Neptune goes back to itself. But it's really staying within that place. So that's there anyways, the whole lifetime. This not practical thinking, it's more mystical thinking, third house expression. Common sense is a little bit more mystical or at times evasive. Okay, works good for music or working with dreams and visions. Now the Pluto starts retrograde. There's Pluto. It's just 10 degrees from the moon, but it squares the Venus at 13 Capricorn. So it's moving retrograde. It means it moves closer to the Venus. Well, through the life, it goes retrograde the whole time. Yep, it's retrograde the whole life, but it doesn't move back to the exact point. It moves back to 16 degrees if you live 100 years. So from 19 to 16, it's still 3 more degrees to get to Venus, which is a good thing. If it was closer and the Pluto was hitting the Venus exactly for 20 or 30 years, that's very likely to be a difficult or abusive or difficult relationship, or where there's not love or challenges around this for a long period of time. The Pluto hits one of those personal, and it's going back and forth over it in the progressions. That alerts one to a long time complex, which would be triggered off by transits. So things happen in the progressions and they wait and they evolve until they have an excuse or a means of expressing it by transit. So you can't draw any total conclusion. You just see different types of themes coming in and going out against the background of all these other things. But they'll have a play when Saturn and some other planets doing something in your chart by transits. These themes are still going to have a way of working their way into that, into the story. Okay, 9. Where are we here? Little. I just want to check the time here. Okay. Okay, we're doing not bad. Okay, and then now I'm going to take the Uranus. Okay. Okay.